Louie Gohmert from Texas, lawmaker that is familiar to this show. Congressman, good morning to you. Obviously, I'm a Capitol Hill reporter, and I got to talk about this thing because this really was a political statement, it seems.
Yeah, it sure was. They knew it wasn't going anywhere. They knew that the Senate wasn't going to take it up. But it was basically a wish list for the Democrats. But for heaven's sake, they should have had things, even if it wasn't going to be taken up by the Senate, they should have had things that would help the country. But I don't think that giving money to illegal aliens, federalizing elections, making sure that you couldn't get voter IDs checked in each state. I mean, it's just incredible, in addition to the $3 trillion that we don't have. But anyway, it was ridiculous. But the Democrats wanted to pass it. They got it passed. It's a shame that that's all that we did. Except we did also pass an unconstitutional bill that would allow proxy voting on the floor of the House, even though the Constitution, Article 1, Section 5 says you've got to have a majority there present or you don't have a quorum to do business.
Yeah, there were only 20 Democrats there. And it's not just you, Congressman. I mean, Democrats, Ben McAdams says, you said it, this is not a plan, this is a wish list. Joe Cunningham, Democrat, this is Washington politics at its worst. Speaker Newt Gingrich just tweeted this, and we want to get your reaction. He said, how do you explain a House Democrat party so crazy that their new $3 trillion proposal, it's got 68 references to cannabis and only 52 references to jobs? Maybe Speaker Pelosi of San Francisco believes California Dreamin' could become the new national anthem. Does any of this have to do with the pandemic, Congressman, or is this just seizing an opportunity for more government growth and handouts?
Well, to be fair, I think it is a jobs bill, but it's just about the Speaker's job and keeping her job as Speaker, because as I understand it, their far-left group, squad, were making it clear we need this liberal agenda in a bill that we can pass so that we don't have to remove you as Speaker. So, yeah, it was a jobs bill, but it was more the Speaker's job than Americans that are hurting and need to get back to work.
Yeah, Congressman, obviously this is dead. This bill is dead in the Senate.
Yeah.
I want to shift over to Texas, actually, and talk a little bit about that. You now have the Biden campaign being convinced that Joe Biden can compete in Texas. Are they right?
Well, yes, if certain things happen, they're going to have an awful lot of people who are illegally in this country vote. And also, there is a group, you know, Republicans have tried to break in. We can't get these votes. And, of course, I'm talking about dead people. They vote traditionally 100% Democrat. But if they get enough dead people, they get enough people illegally in the country, and they're able to cheat adequately, then, yes, Biden has a real chance of winning Texas. But if they don't have the illegal alien votes and they don't have enough dead votes and they can't cheat adequately and it's a fair election, then Biden has no chance in Texas.
How do we safeguard that, Congressman? Because the bill you mentioned, the House bill, which is dead in the Senate, you're right, it's not going to become law. But they're trying to pass $3.6 billion for mail-in voting. What should the Trump administration be paying the most attention to fight back against voter fraud?
Well, since Congress mandated electronic voting back after the 2000 election, which they never should have done, it's the way it is, and there's been cheating that's gone on, and so we have got to have, in Texas, we've got to have our Attorney General and our Secretary of State not just allowing the big cities to hire these Democrats, Soros-type funded groups to come in and do the counting using flash drives for early votes where they manipulate the votes. We have got to have Republican watchdogs at every stage to make sure those votes don't get changed, and we've also got to have people at polling places. And I had precinct chairs saying we were having trouble getting poll watchers. So Republicans have got to volunteer. This is all hands on deck. We got to make sure the cheating doesn't happen. And if it's a fair election, Biden has no chance.
Hey, Congressman, I got to ask you about something that interests me, and that is I never thought I'd see Tesla's founder, Elon Musk, in a 10-gallon hat, cowboy boots, and spurs. But it appears Musk is in talks to move his company to Texas over California's coronavirus restrictions. So where do we stand? Is there a chance you get a new Texan named Elon?
Yeah, it sounds like there's a real possibility because he's tired of being jacked around by the California governor and the California politics. But you guys know, you're so plugged in. You know, for California to run Musk off from California, you know things have really gotten bad. And for him to be willing to look at a conservative state like Texas, yeah, things have really gotten bad in California.
That's a good point. We just want to let you listen to a very popular podcast, Joe Rogan, sounding off on just that. Yeah. Listen to this.
Hey, I might move to Texas. If California continues to be this restrictive,
yeah,
I don't know if this is a good place to live. I might jet.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. This is silly. I don't need to be here.
Yeah, Congressman, he's a free thinker. He's not a conservative. He said he would vote for Bernie, but he ultimately looks at his government and says, they're locking me down.
Yeah, and so there are more and more people that are looking at that and leaving Texas. But, you know, it's interesting. For years we've been saying in Texas, you know, we don't need more liberals coming from California and New York. You've messed up your state. Don't come mess up ours. But in Ted Cruz's election, apparently some exit polling indicated he won heavily those that had moved into Texas. They were looking for a better way. But we lost an awful lot of votes to people that were educated in Texas and taught that socialism was the way to go. So we've got some work to do in our own backyard. And by the way, football is still king, football and baseball in Texas. And I know you were plugging soccer coming back, but I just remind you, soccer is a gateway sport. You start watching that, you may be watching lacrosse in no time.
I agree with you. I agree with you all the way, Congressman. 100%.
Listen, Congressman, it's German pro soccer. Like I would watch hermit crab snail racing if it was live, to be honest, at this point. I digress.
That's true. We're so hungry for good sports and get rid of politics. But, yeah, but thank you. Thanks for keeping your finger on the pulse.
Congressman, I want to ask you about what's going on in Michigan. Right now you have a bit of an uproar there. You have doctors and lawmakers suing Governor Whitmer over the state's shutdown, and you have a Democratic sheriff refusing to enforce the orders. This is a quote from Dr. Randall Baker, from the Grand Health Partners president and surgeon. This shutdown is risking lives and imperiling health. The curve has been flattened. There will likely be spikes of cases in the future, but we can't shut down non-COVID health care every time. We need to reassess the best practices to save the most lives, particularly where COVID-19 cases are low. And this is something that we're seeing a lot, right? I mean, even, you know, I'm seeing it in New York City, where a lot of people can't get to doctors for things not related to COVID. There are other ailments that people suffer from, and COVID has really shut a lot of places down, and it's inhibited those people from getting treated for other issues. And also, the shutdown is obviously, at this point, having a very clear implication on businesses, small businesses around the country, lots of people suffering with no end in sight. So what do you make of all this?
Well, first of all, it really is good to see you back. As far as what's going on in Michigan, and we're seeing even in New York and around the country, people are waking up and they're realizing that this freedom thing is very important. And so many of us, yes, we care about every person who's suffered from the coronavirus, and we don't want to lose another American. But at the same time, as I pointed out yesterday on the floor, you know, they say if we just save one life, then maybe we need to give up a little more freedom. But I take you back to over 1 million Americans that gave their lives so that we would have the freedom to pursue our opportunities and to either succeed or fail on our own.
Yeah.
And what about those lives? And so people are waking up. Wait, don't cause me to lose my life's work with the promise you're going to send me a government check. I want to make it on my own or fail on my own. And so we're seeing a resurgence of the good old American spirit saying, let me at least try whether I succeed or fail. And it's really encouraging to see that grow.
Absolutely. Amen, Congressman. I appreciate it. I got to ask you about this a bit selfishly. You chair the Congressional Justice for Warriors Caucus. This week, you called for President Trump to pardon veterans. They were part of Raven 23, also known as the Biden 4. These are 4 contractors that protected State Department officials in Baghdad, ultimately thrown under the bus. What can you tell us briefly about this case and what you're fighting for?
Well, thanks for asking about it, Pete. And there is nothing selfish about what you're asking. You're a great American. You've served our country, and you care deeply about these people. Now, they're cast as civilian contractors. You had 2 Marines and 2 Army guys, and they were hired by the U.S. government in Iraq, in a place of danger, to protect our diplomats.
Yes.
There was a car bomb that went off. These guys were called to the scene to get our diplomat out safely. There is a truck that surges past their roadblock and won't turn around, won't stop. They fire bullets over their head, and they start taking shots from all these other Iraqis. And in fact, there were witnesses that said that the Iraqi police picked up bags, sacks full of casings that were fired at our 4 people that were protecting the diplomat, and yet and they went ahead and were prosecuted, but the federal judge threw it out. For example, a weapons charge, they were charged with illegally having weapons the State Department gave them. And so the judge threw those out. And then our friends Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden take a personal interest in demanding these guys be convicted and sent to prison. And Biden even went to Iraq and stood beside the Iraqi president and promised they're going after these guys. And they did. And they're sitting in prison for protecting our diplomats, and that is so outrageous.
Louie,
but it's typical Biden and Obama.
100%. As you said, they should have medals on their chest, not be behind metal bars.
That's
the
right.
Biden 4. We're going to carry this story. Congressman Gohmert, thank you so much
Pete.
for fighting
Thank
for it
you.
and your time this morning.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.